Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, it's that time of year. It's Thanksgiving, the time of giving thanks. Hence the name, Thanksgiving. So, there are movies for just about every holiday, and yes, including Thanksgiving. There are not many. There are not many movies for Thanksgiving, but there is one in particular that has become the quintessential Thanksgiving movie.
What do you think everyone can agree upon that?
Yeah,
it's there.
Yes. Why don't you tell everybody what that movie is?
It's the classic movie from John Hughes, starring John Candy and Steve Martin. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
My favorite John Hughes movie.
My favorite John Hughes movie as well, actually. So I'm glad we agree upon this, which is, we're stuck in an interesting position on this because obviously we are, both being born kind of the early mid 80s, would have been, too young to watch really most of the John Hughes movies when they came out in theaters.
Because you were 83, I was 84. This came out in 87. So
we're not that typical, especially for his teen movies being that prime demographic. Well, we would not, we were not teenagers when they came out.
Yeah.
So, but even following that, obviously in The Breakfast Club and Weird Science and Pretty in Pink and
16 Candles.
16 Candles, the other one I was thinking about. Thank you. But I have a confession to make about The Breakfast Club.
What's that?
I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. It's not a bad movie, but it's not like an absolute favorite of mine.
I have a confession to make about Breakfast Club also. I have never seen it all the way through, so I can't give an honest opinion on it. But what I have seen, I would agree with you. I mean, sure, it's good. It's enjoyable, like any John Hughes movie is, except maybe Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm not a big fan of that one, but
yes.
No, I know there are people out there that love that movie, and
thank you.
If
There's
you do, more power
to you.
Bueller. But I've never really been a huge fan of Ferris Bueller. But
the interesting thing about Hughes, and you had to separate it because this is his first kind of adult movie that he directed. It's not really his first more adult movie. He helped write the vacation movies.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote, Mr. Mom, and
he wrote The Great Outdoors.
The Great Outdoors. He wrote and directed Uncle Buck, which was after Planes and Trains and Automobiles.
Yeah.
And Uncle Buck is more of a family movie, but it's not like the teen movie that he had been known for. So he also wrote Beethoven.
Yes, he did.
Anyway,
yes, he did.
So yes, it's my favorite John Hughes movie. It's easily the favorite. It's his best movie in my opinion.
And it's just a classic.
And it's a classic. It's hard to find people that don't like this movie, or it's just embedded now, I think, kind of as the way to kick off kind of the Thanksgiving Christmas season.
Yeah. And
part of it's, it's about something that's so quintessential to Thanksgiving is like getting home.
Yes, getting home to your family to spend the holidays with them.
You know what other movies is about someone trying to get home and spend the holidays? Not really home. It's about going somewhere to spend the holidays with your family.
What's that?
Die Hard.
Yes, it is.
That's why Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Is. And we're going to get into all that when we do our Die Hard episode. It's coming up, folks. It's going to happen.
But Die Hard is not a Thanksgiving movie.
No, it's not.
Had they actually decided to try to rob Nakatomi Plaza during a Thanksgiving party, like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, then it would be a Thanksgiving movie.
Yes, it would.
And not a Christmas movie. But but this is a Thanksgiving movie, and there's plenty of Thanksgiving talk. There's plenty of talk of being thankful.
Yes.
Including a school play about being thankful.
Yes, there is.
And it's a movie that took me I shouldn't say a long time, to see the unedited version.
Yes, it's is it John Hughes' only R-rated movie?
I believe it is. Well, let me see. I brought up, it was also Only the Lonely, but I thought that was PG-13. He didn't direct that one either. Because I don't think She's Having a Baby, which we'll get into She's Having a Baby in a little bit. That was a PG movie, I believe.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I remember, because my first time really watching the movie was because there's on all TV all the time. Right? And I'd watch the TV cut with my family. And then I remember went to Suncoast Video at the mall.
I used to love that store. So overpriced, but I loved it.
Yeah. I wanted to buy a VHS copy of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I saw it was rated R. And I thought that was weird. It's like, how's this movie rated R? And I bought it, and I found out why it's rated R.
Yes. There's one scene.
Otherwise, it probably would have been PG-13.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's funny because, it is a movie. It's the type of R-rated movie you don't get very often anymore, right? Like, it's a little bit more geared towards adults. Yeah. And there's just maybe some language here and there and some content that throws it over the top. I don't know if you get that as often anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a movie that, even though it's R-rated, you can watch it with the family, you know?
Yeah, I watched it with my son. I was like, you know what? We're gonna watch this, and there's gonna be like one scene.
Yeah, there's really just the one scene that, there's some language you don't necessarily want your kids to hear. But
yeah, there's a few other like small references here and there, stuff that could just go over the head pretty easily. Yep. So yeah, most of the other stuff, there's a few crude jokes here and there, but it's fairly tame.
Yeah. No talk. One scene. No talk about getting you a toe while they're drinking coffee. Nothing like that in there.
This has to be, but we'll get into it. But it's probably the greatest concentration within like per like minute.
Yeah,
to get this word in there.
Yeah, which is where it's fitting that this episode's following Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes. Well, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, okay, it actually only has about 100 and what? Deadpool, Wolverine had 118.
Yep.
Yeah. This one scene that's in 1 minute has about 14 probably, right?
Yep. But it's all like in a minute. Within 1 minute. So okay.
Which, we're not spoiling anything there. We'll get to that scene.
We'll get to it. But
and it's become, it's a famous scene. Like, at some point you have to, I wonder, like, that would be a good video just to get Steve Martin and that lady back together.
Yeah.
And just recreate that scene.
Yeah.
Steve Martin would look exactly the same.
Yes.
I don't know about her, but
she might. I don't know.
It's been 37 years.
Edie McClurg.
She could dye her hair.
Yeah.
Get a Botox injection to take away any wrinkles, right?
Yeah. So the first time I saw it, I didn't grow up watching it like you did. Okay. I actually never saw this movie until about 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those ones that, I'd always heard about. I knew somewhat about it, and it's always kind of been on my list of movies to check out someday. But it wasn't until just before Thanksgiving 2 years ago that I finally sat down and watched it. And I loved it. It's a great Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah. It's hard not to love. It's great. It's funny. It's got heart to it.
Mm-hmm. Heart.
And and again, like, it's 90 minutes. I think it's like the perfect length that it needs to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't add in things that, they cut the necessary, they cut the stuff that was definitely kind of extraneous.
Yes. And
because
the title,
it's a tight story,
is very fitting for it. It's very accurate because the movie features planes, trains, and automobiles.
That's right. Notice it does not say, it's not planes, trains, boats.
Nope, because they don't use a boat.
There's no aquatic vessels in this movie.
Nope, at least none that are heavily featured.
That's right. There's a plane. There are a couple trains.
And there are several automobiles.
All types. You got pickup trucks. You got buses.
You got taxi cabs.
Sedans, taxi cabs. You have big rigs. You have all of them.
All different kinds of automobiles.
Yeah, you have a couple taxi cabs in this movie, don't you?
Yes.
And they even use their feet. Yes. As mode of transportation.
Yes, they do.
No bikes. You see, no bikes. They'll lie to you about modes that they don't use.
Nope.
They could have said motorcycles, but no, they did not ride a motorcycle.
Nope.
It might have been efficient. I don't know. But yeah, so perfect title. I think it's just perfectly concise. And I think they didn't release some of the deleted scenes until like the more recent releases. I think the original DVD releases did not have deleted scenes. But occasionally you could watch some of the TV cuts. And sometimes they would have some of the deleted scenes in there. That was
a nice thing about, especially like 70s and 80s movies did this more frequently, where they'd release a TV cut where there was more movie. Like with Superman. The TV cut for Superman was almost 3 hours long. Like it had a lot added to it.
Now they take stuff out. It's like, this is an hour and 52-minute movie. We're going to put it into a 2-hour block. We're cutting some stuff out.
Yep, because we got to make room for commercials. We're cutting the movie down to an hour and a half so that we can put a half hour of commercials in there.
But, and some of the scenes in this are they're funny, but you get that. Yeah, they're probably extraneous. it's interesting because the movie itself, even though it's paced perfectly and has a great plot, a lot of it really is just kind of individual, kind of like little vignettes of their travel experience together.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job of finding the stuff that needed to be pulled out to make sure with the movie that the final product just gelled together perfectly.
Yeah. So before we get into it, even though this movie is almost 40 years old,
it's crazy.
Spoiler alert. We are going to be talking about the entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen it or you just don't mind being spoiled, then keep on listening. But you have been warned.
I think that's a great point, because one of the great things about this is that it builds to the ending that's completely earned and deserved.
Yes.
And it's something that you might not actually see coming. Yes.
You do not expect a young Matthew Lawrence to appear.
You do not. By the way, the soundtrack in this movie is also fantastic.
Yes, it is.
Every time you go away, you take a piece of me.
Oh, yeah.
What's terrific about it, like, doesn't even start with any actual music.
No.
Right? I think it's...
they're sitting in an office.
Well, even before that, right? They just, they have
yeah, you're right.
They have the little bells or whatever, and then doesn't even really show the font. It just basically runs by the screen, and you have like a train sound, whistle, and then plane, and all that. And then it's just sitting in the office, and it's quiet. And you have Steve Martin there, and some other co-worker.
Yeah, so you have Steve Martin and Lyman Ward, who played the dad in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
He's a fellow Canuck with Ryan Reynolds. Mm-hmm. And John Candy, who's also in this movie. And the other guy that's in there is William Wyndham. They're in his office. And they tell us it's, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Yes, and they're in New York City.
The Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So, 2 days before Thanksgiving.
And William Wyndham, at least for me, who I think about him, is with Murder, She Wrote.
Yes, because I think about William Wyndham all the time. William Wyndham is always on my mind.
Dr. Seth Hazlitt. And there's some universe within the multiverse, I guess, since we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine last week, where William Wyndham and Angela Lansbury just are a married old couple, and they just have lots of sex.
He's just trying to give her something else to write about.
She's not a mystery novelist.
There's nothing that anybody can tell me that will convince me that Angela Lansbury is not the murderer. Nobody can convince me that she is not a serial killer in that show.
No, it follows her everywhere.
I mean, it is a tiny little town with so much murder. And she's writing about every one of them.
A lot of it.
How does she know all these details unless she's the one doing it?
It's not like Matlock. Matlock was a defense attorney in Atlanta, big city. Mm-hmm. And then he's got people that are accused of murder coming to him to represent him.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's going to do what any good attorney does, and he's going to find out who actually killed the person.
And
so
he's played by Andy Griffith.
Yeah. No. Have you seen the Andy Griffith show?
Yeah. Andy Griffith is a true American treasure. Angela Lansbury, on the other hand, she was a teapot. And a witch that rode around on a bed. And a murderer in a small town.
I mean, she was in the Manchurian Candidate. She was quite evil in that. So... So they're in this office. This office is an interesting office because, I can't tell if it's supposed to be looks like it might be a conference room, actually. Mm-hmm. It might not be.
Yeah.
I don't know, because, you see one of them table. Desk. It's a big table, and he has his desk in there. But, there's nothing on his desk. And it's not like there's other things that would be in, an executive's office.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's looking at different postal boards, and it's cosmetics, right? And kind of cutting back between him.
Yeah, because it's an ad agency that they work for. So
that's what you get to. Steve Martin is in marketing, and he's an ad executive. He's John Hamm.
Yeah, pretty much.
So John Hamm is Steve Martin. But he gets out his ticket, and you can tell he's getting nervous. And I don't get part of this. He's obviously a very successful ad executive.
Yeah.
I guess maybe he's just hopeful to get an earlier flight because of the holiday. I don't know. But he opens up the ticket, shows the time that's supposed to leave 6 or 7
p.m.
o'clock.
Yeah, it's 6 p.m. flight.
And he looks at looking
at his watch.
His very nice watch, which will come back later.
Yes.
It's a Paget, right? Which today, the cheapest of these watches is $30,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's up there at Rolex level.
Yeah. So, and he's talking with his coworker. He's like, I've got to go. They can't do anything about it.
Yeah, because they got to wait for William Wyndham to pick one of the
He keeps looking
ads.
at it. He's like, He keeps looking at it. He's about to talk. He doesn't talk.
Mm-hmm. He just pulls up the other one and looks at it.
I'll say it again. And then he doesn't make a decision. He's a man of indecision.
Yeah. So he decides to take a recess until after the holiday.
Which means Steve Martin's got to fly back to New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ticket shows that he's flying to Chicago. He lives in Chicago. It's a John Hughes movie.
Yeah. So, of course,
it's not going to be a John Hughes movie if it pretty much doesn't take place in Chicago.
Or at least have Chicago involved in some way.
Someone lives in Chicago.
Really, hardly any of this movie actually takes place in Chicago.
No.
Chicago's mentioned a lot, but their destination is Chicago.
We don't really stay in Chicago until the last 10 minutes of this movie. Last 5 minutes of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, there's brief glimpses of Chicago throughout, but only a minute or two.
Probably get more New York in this movie. You get more Wichita.
Mm-hmm. You get a lot of
Welcome to Wichita.
You get a lot of Wichita in this movie.
You get a little bit of St. Louis, too. We'll get to that.
A little bit, yep.
So, obviously he's upset. They're down there, and then...
Yeah. And he's...
Well, even before that, he's talking with his coworker there, and he's like, the guy's like, why don't you just stay the evening and get the first flight in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no. He's like, then he realizes he got his gloves.
His coworker, John. Lyman Ward plays John.
Yes. He realizes he got his gloves. He was going to go back to the office to get the gloves, but he decides not to.
Yeah, so...
He's basically just told John, hey, pick up the gloves.
I'll pick them up for me tomorrow.
See ya. Yeah.
I'll pick them up for me in Chicago tomorrow.
As the doors close, you'll never make the 6.
Yeah.
Perfect friend. I love it.
So he's trying to hail a cab, but it's New York.
It's New York, right? Which is part of the problem. It's he's expecting to get a cab during rush hour from New York, from Manhattan, to JFK.
Yeah. Right? So he sees,
he sees one that with the light comes on, but then he stares across the intersection, and fucking Kevin Bacon is there.
Kevin Bacon shows up in this movie for his one scene.
And they look at each other. And Kevin Bacon's like, that's Steve Martin.
And Steve Martin's like, that's Kevin Bacon.
That's the jerk.
And Steve Martin's like, hey, I'm not even 1 degree away from Kevin Bacon. Because we're in the same movie now.
But then they see the cab at the same time. They're the only 2 people that see it. This cab
they're the only 2 people that see the light go on in this cab. So they're running. The 2 of them are running. I mean, Kevin Bacon is in so little of this movie that his character's name is Taxi Racer.
So this role is actually Kevin Bacon's idea. So he'd also been filming it was funny. This movie came out before the movie that John Hughes and Kevin Bacon worked on together. She's Having a Baby. Mm-hmm. But they were working on it, and Kevin Bacon suggested that he could do a cameo role for this, and this was the role. So, and at this point, he was still a pretty young actor at the time. Probably the most prominent movie he was in was Let Loose.
Yeah, something like that.
Before this,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, this was before Tremors. This was a few years before Tremors.
Yeah, She's Having a Baby.
Yeah, so they're running. They're neck and neck trying to...
And then they each get some obstacles at different points, right? Which is, again, of course, obstacles are going to happen. But
obstacles show
still,
up.
no one else is finding this cab.
Nobody else. And then Kevin Bacon
It
gets
looks like-
stopped behind a luggage rack for a hotel.
Right.
And
it's New York.
you know, so he's like, and it looks like Steve Martin's going to get it, but then he trips over a big trunk that's sitting by the curb and trips right in the middle of the street, almost gets hit by a couple cars. And Kevin Bacon seizes the opportunity and gets to the cab.
Gets in and gives him a salute. One of my favorite little details right here is as Kevin Bacon's getting in there, or maybe it's when he first spied Kevin Bacon, but those are Roy Rogers.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Which, you know, now is just a very specific, like, kind of regional little chain around Maryland and Virginia, maybe West Virginia.
Yeah,
I guess
there were a couple in the Midwest back in the day. I remember eating at a Roy Rogers or two when I was growing up.
You still get them in New Jersey in the travel plazas, right? But, you know, it's not like the true, like, you know, restaurant, right? Yeah. So, but, so Kevin Bacon, he gets the cab. So they've already established at this point that Steve Martin's kind of like cynical also. You know, he's going to be dressed well and everything, and he cares about appearance. But I think it's funny how like he even just kind of like, why are you making such a big deal out of a cosmetic ad?
Yeah.
Just make a decision.
Yeah.
We're not curing cancer. That's what he says.
Yeah.
So he keeps looking. There's this other guy that's trying to get a cab, and this guy's also dressed really well, right?
Yes.
He's about to get the cab, and Steve Martin comes up to him. He's like, I'd like to appeal to your good nature.
Yes, I'd like to appeal to your good nature. Please let me have this cab. I need to catch a flight. And the guy's like, no,
I don't have a good nature.
Yeah, I don't have a good nature. He's like, well, then maybe I could pay you for it.
$10.
I was like, 50. Okay, fine. He goes, opens up his wallet to get $50 out. He's like,
anybody
that can pay 50 can also pay 75.
That's a good chunk of change. Even today.
Yeah.
And that's 40 years ago. Like, that's probably, that'd be like saying, I'm going to give you $150 for this cab.
So
right? Like, almost double.
While these two are talking, negotiating who's getting the cab,
the cab, he's like, someone needs to get in this cab because I need a fare and I want to get more butts.
Yeah. We see the trunk of the cab open, and we see this big trunk get put in there.
Yep. There's this guy with this big blue like parka and this red mitten, right? And the cab, he's like, fine.
And the trunk is the same trunk that Steve Martin tripped over.
Yes.
And so he agrees to pay the guy $75. And then, what was they said? He's like, you have no soul or something like that.
He's like, you know, right.
He's like, you're close.
Like,
I'm a lawyer.
You're a thief.
Yeah, that's right.
Close. I'm an attorney.
Yeah.
He's like,
you're a thief.
It's like, I like how he leads off. Like, have a happy holidays. Like, this will help.
Yeah.
But then the cab leaves and he looks, there's no cab.
Well,
and then
he chases the cab down.
He didn't chases it, right? Because the lawyer, he goes back looking for another cab and he's $75 richer. And Steve Martin just chases the cab.
Yes, he chases the cab, gets up to it, opens the door, and John Candy's sitting there.
And Steve Martin's like, all right, you son of a bitch. Tells him to get out, and John Candy just looks shocked. Right?
Yeah. Because John Candy has no idea that he just bought the seat in the cab from the other guy. He thinks he's just some guy trying to steal his cab.
Light was on the cab.
Yep.
No one was in it. He's going to take it because, again, it's New York, and he's trying to get to the airport too. Or somewhere.
Yeah.
So he's going to take the opportunity to get a cab. I was looking to see who played the other guy. The
lawyer?
Attorney. Yeah. I didn't see it on the Wikipedia page.
Yeah, so that was Nick Wyman.
Nick Wyman.
New York lawyer.
So, yeah, because he never gets his name. He just knows he's a lawyer, and he's in New York. The cab driver is Gaetano Lisi, cab driver in New York. So, all right.
Yeah, a lot of creative character names in this movie.
Yes, just very descriptive. Except the Wichita cab driver. His name is Doobie.
Yes. We'll get to Doobie.
So he finally makes it to JFK, He gets there and he sees that they've delayed the flight.
Yes, so he made it.
This is not a Home Alone scene with all run in to get to the gate.
No.
Run Rudolph is playing.
No.
So he sits down.
It's the gates, it's full of people, crowded, like all the seats are taken except like one. So he sits down. He takes it.
And what I love about this is so 80s because there's people smoking cigarettes and at the gate. I love it.
Yes. And he sits down and looks up, and across from him is a guy in a blue parka with red mittens reading a book.
He's not wearing the parka now. That's all.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He
just recognizes the face.
Recognizes him. But he looks across from him, and it's this guy reading a book, the Canadian Mounted.
Which I think this is always it's an interesting choice, like after you've seen the whole movie, that he's reading this book.
Yeah.
Anyway. Seems a bit unlike him once you watch everything.
Yeah, but it's John Candy sitting across from him, and
it's different. Like, he's dressed so differently. He's got a tie on also, but he's also got kind of a cheap kind of J.C. Penney yellow button down shirt. And again, you could tell that they're shopping at way different department stores for their business wear.
Yeah,
and he looks up at them because like he gets that feeling someone's staring at him.
Yeah. And so he looks at him. He's like,
"It's one of the three amigos.
You look familiar. You look just
El Guapo,
like that guy, Lucky Day, in the sombrero, with his two buddies, Dusty Bottoms and Ned Niederlander."
Yes. Neil Page is very different than Lucky Day.
Yes, he is. Which Steve Martin plays Neil Page, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, no. And that's his name is Neil Page.
Yeah.
Pleased to meet you, Neil Page.
Yeah, and John Candy introduces himself as Del Griffith.
It's like, and the thing is like, he's just trying to think about like, I'm good with names, which we do find out he's very good with names.
Yes, he is.
But I can't place yours. He's like, you stole a cab from me on Park Avenue this afternoon. And he's like, John Candy just laughs. He's like, I've never stolen a thing in my life.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, wait, I recognize you. You're the guy that tried to steal my cab.
These scared the bejesus out of me. I knew you.
So John Candy's loving it. He thinks it's great.
And he's like, oh, wait, that was way too easy to get a cab. I stole your cab. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry, yeah.
Can I make it up to you? Have a nice hot dog and a beer. Which, hey, what a lovely gesture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was he made an honest mistake.
Especially at airport prices. A hot dog and a beer at airport prices. Yeah.
And he's offering to buy the guy a dinner and beer.
Yeah. He's trying to make amends.
Good heart. And he's like, no, I'm picky about what to eat. And he's still offering. He finally gets down to like
a cup of coffee.
Like, some tea.
Pack of gum. He wants to make amends for stealing his cab.
Oh, that's the other thing he offers. A Slurpee.
Yes, that's right, a Slurpee.
I love that one. It's like, is there a 7-Eleven? Like, maybe. Remember, this is like pre 9/11. So,
yeah.
I mean, I did fly before 9/11, but like, I
mean,
wasn't at the time where
I don't know why 9/11 would cause 7-Elevens to not be at the airport, but
that's a good point.
Why would 9/11 cause Slurpees to go away?
Thanks a lot, Bin Laden. Everyone got so sensitive about those 7-Elevens. All right. So we cut to them. Now they're on the plane. And now Neil Page is having a fit because he booked a first class ticket, but he was given a coach seat assignment.
Yes.
And this is the day before Thanksgiving. So the flight is
2 days before Thanksgiving.
Yes, that's right. 2 days. But still, it's the week of Thanksgiving. It's a full flight. So obviously, they're not going to bump somebody out of a first class seat.
Yeah. So he tries to argue with the flight attendant. And
what's she going to do? What can she do? Come on.
She's just trying to direct him to his seat.
And he gets annoyed that they're delayed, but they're delayed because there's weather in Chicago.
Yeah, there's a snowstorm going on in Chicago. It's closing the airport.
And then, like, she can't magically make a seat appear for him.
Yeah.
And I love how she's like, "Sir, I've just had enough with you."
Yeah.
Hey, like, you'll get a refund. It's like, I don't want a refund.
I want the seat that I paid for.
Right. And he has to settle for it, right? But she got lucky compared to the other person.
Yes.
That encounters him.
Yes.
When there's not the thing that he booked.
Yes. Yes.
So he goes to take a seat, and then he has an aisle seat, and the person that has the middle seat is Del Griffith.
Yep.
Is this a coincidence or what?
John Candy.
I like that the guy that has the window seat is an older gentleman who is in Home Alone. Mm-hmm. He's the husband of the woman that they sell their tickets to Catherine O'Hara so she can fly back from Paris to not Chicago. She flies to what? Dallas.
Bill Irwin plays Man on Plane.
Man on Plane. Love it. So, oh no, that's right. No, I'm sorry. Neil does not have the aisle seat. He's got the middle seat.
Yes.
Del has the aisle seat.
Del has the aisle seat. Man on Plane has the window seat.
So they finally formally introduce themselves, right? It's like Neil Page, Del Griffith, and Del's just like, I sell shower curtain rings.
Yeah.
American Light and Fixture Corporation.
Shower curtain ring division. He sells shower curtain rings.
Which I love that little aspect of this because that's where it gets like kind of more of your absurd skits, right? It's like shower curtain rings. Like
there's a guy that travels around the country selling shower curtain rings.
No one does that.
And he pulls out his little sample packet.
I love it. He's ready. He's ready. He's going to go to the stewardess like, do you need some rings for your curtains here that separate where you prepare these meals? Right? I can sell them.
Oh, yeah.
I got just the thing for you. And then Neil says that he's in marketing. Del's like, super.
Yeah.
And then, and finally, Neil's like, I just don't feel like I want to talk a whole lot right now. I'm reading this article. My friend wrote it. Del's like, oh, okay.
It's like, yeah, I understand.
Like, I don't want to be some blabbermouth. I hate that.
And then he just keeps on going on and on. He doesn't want to be a blabbermouth, and he understands that, sometimes you just want to relax and enjoy the silence, and he's not being quiet.
I love how, Neil, he could, easily just unbutton his top button, loosen up his tie a little bit. Because he's in between two people, and, John Candy was a big dude. He's got the old dude, and...
Yep.
Right? He could have tried to relax a little bit more. He could have even taken off his suit jacket. He doesn't do that. No. He's still got to present the formal whole thing. So finally, Del, he's been walking around New York City all day. He's tired.
Yeah.
It's like, I got to take off my shoes and my socks.
Because there's always that guy on a plane.
He plays it so well. He's like, oh, yeah. It's like, hey, you get the feeling. Everyone's had that where you've been wearing dress shoes all day and you've been walking around a lot in them for whatever, whether it's like a wedding or a funeral, you're just ready or you've just been working all day doing something, take them off and okay, it feels good.
Yep.
You really don't do it on a plane.
No, the plane is not the right place to do that. You do it when you get to your destination after you get off the plane,
and then you make fists
with your toes on the carpet.
And so finally, we cut in. It's nighttime now. All the cabin lights are down when the shades are drawn, and Neil's still there. He's got his little overlight on. He's reading something. He's got his glasses on. The old dude is snoring and
on his shoulder, he's sleeping on his shoulder.
And this is the point where you can tell something's probably not quite right because it's New York to Chicago. It's not that long.
It's not that long of a flight, but you can tell they've been on the plane longer than they should have. And Del
kind of wakes up. He's like, $6 my right nuts as we're not landing in Chicago.
Yeah. And they land in Wichita, Kansas.
Yes. So meanwhile, while all this is going on, right, we actually do get a scene that cuts to Neil's house, where it's his wife. He's got 3 kids, a daughter and 2 sons. The daughter's the oldest. And so, but it's the oldest 2 are talking, especially like the oldest son is like, I guess the 2 of them are talking. It's the oldest son and the daughter.
Yeah. Little Neil,
about
played by Matthew
when
Lawrence.
The grandparents like talking about when the grandparents are going to come in for Thanksgiving, and it's like, you know, oh yeah, the daughter's like, is he going to give me a noogie? It's like, of course he's going to give you a noogie. and then Matthew Lawrence is like, is he going to give me a noogie? And the mom's like, no. It's like, why not? Because you get Indian burns.
I'd rather have a noogie.
What grandparent gives their grandchild an Indian burn?
I know.
Noogies. Yeah, okay, I see that. Indian burns. I wouldn't even give my own kid an Indian burn.
Neither of those things are really done a whole lot anymore.
No. And that's when, I guess, like, you know, and she gets the phone call, and it's, again, like, I guess they're already in Wichita, right?
Yeah.
you know,
because
like,
he calls from the Wichita airport.
Yeah, and because he tells her, like, oh, we're in Wichita, and then it's so weird that she's like, I don't understand what a snowstorm in Chicago has to do with Wichita. It's like, the airport closed, so you have to.
They can't land in Chicago. They gotta land somewhere. And Wichita just happened to be the nearest available airport.
Yeah, right. I'm sure, you know, St. Louis probably took some flights, but they took what they could. Mm-hmm. Maybe Kansas City, right? So Wichita. I mean, sorry, it could have been worse. It could have been like, you know, what? Like,
they could have gone to
City.
Atlanta.
Could have flown back in the other direction.
You can't seem to fly across the country without going through Atlanta.
So true. And so Neil comes back up. Not Neil. Dell comes back up. He's like, some trouble on the home front. Like, probably not that comfortable with each other yet to be asking that question.
Probably not.
And then I'm looking at this note. This note I made. Neil's wife is stupid. Who plays Neil's wife? Let's give her credit.
Neil's wife.
She seems like a smart lady.
Neil's wife is played by Layla Robbins. Susan Page, played by Layla Robbins.
Yeah, it's like her most significant role. Anyway, and so then, you know, Dell's just talking. It's like, you know, well, we're not going to get out of here tonight, right? It's like, or, you know, it's like the way he describes it.
Because all the hotels are booked.
It's going to be easier playing pickup sticks with our butt cheeks.
Yeah.
than getting out of Wichita tonight. But he already made a reservation,
like,
right?
While you were calling home, I was calling the motel.
The Braidwood Inn.
The Braidwood Inn. I know the manager there. I sold him shower curtain rings.
If you want to pick up the cab, I'll make sure
if you want to pick up the cab, we'll make sure you get a hotel room. So he's like, okay.
And, you know, he looks at the guy that's sleeping on the floor. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. So,
by the way, we'll get to the Braidwood Inn. So, well, you know what? We'll wait to get to the Braidwood Inn. And so to get to the cab, and the cab is like it's, you know, what? It's, I guess, got red lights and yellow lights.
It's a lowrider.
Like a lowrider. And
driven by Doobie.
There's all these little figurines, and there's Doobie in there.
Yes, Doobie.
And Doobie is played by Larry Hankin. I like Larry Hankin.
Larry Hankin is a
terrific character actor.
I love Larry Hankin. He's always great.
Yeah, he's such a terrific character actor.
But inside
especially
the cab,
like recently,
he's got like
Bad
pictures of naked women all over the inside of the cab. when Steve Martin looks at him, kind of makes a face. Doobie kind of looks at him, he's like, just smiles a little bit.
He's got the toothpick too. The toothpick's a nice touch to it.
Yep. Yeah.
And finally, he's like, "How much further is it?" and I was like, well, Doobie, why are we taking the back roads? He's like, well, he said your friend's never been to Wichita.
Figured we want to see the scenery.
You don't see anything on the interstate, but interstate. And Neil's just like, it's the middle of the night. So they finally get to the Braidwood Inn, and they get out, and there's this woman getting angry with some guy she's with, and she slaps him, and they walk in, and it's just a little short 2-story interstate,
just a little motel,
side motel. I love when Del gets out, he's like, Doobie, take care of the luggage. And then he goes like, Neil, stick with me. So they get in and they ring the bell. And Gus comes up. And Gus is like, Del Griffith, how the hell are you? Right?
Yeah.
Who plays Gus? Charles Tyner.
Yes, Charles
plays
Tyner.
Gus.
Charles Tyner plays Gus.
And they explain the situation. He's like, yeah, I have like half your flight. Probably have half your flight. And they get the last room. And I love how, as they're doing that, though, Del wants to do you take those discount credit cards? It's like, oh, I have to charge you for a double, but it'll
even out. With the discount, it'll even out. But yeah, so Neil gives him his Diners Club card, and he puts that in his little credit card swiper thing and swipes it. Then he takes the discount credit card from Del and swipes that. Then he gets the cards mixed up.
Right, they're both white. Mm-hmm.
They're both very similar looking cards.
Yeah. And
he gets them mixed up, and nobody notices that he gets them mixed up. This is important for later.
Very important for later. I get it. Hey, it's late. They look alike. They're both tired. They've had a long day.
Yeah.
They are probably still adjusting out from Doobie's cab.
Because that cab smelled like Doobie's.
Probably smelled like Doobie's and sex, but... And then, they get it back. It's like, all right, last room in the complex. Both their faces drop. And then says, I love how Steve Martin's is like, you mean share? So they get in, they open the door. It's one of those motels where you actually you can get in from either side of the room. Right? You have the door that goes to the actual outside, but one that goes into the hallway as well. By the way, I looked this up. So because people, we'll get to it later. We won't get there yet. And they get in, and they look around, and there's one double bed.
Yes, one double bed. Not even like a queen-size bed.
No, not even a queen. No, it's a double. It's a full-size bed. That's it.
Full-size bed. And John Candy, if you didn't know, is not the smallest of people.
And then...
he was a beefy
looking
guy.
Around. But it's a great pan. They kind of circle around the entire room. And then it zooms back in on the bed. Mm-hmm. And then it points to John Candy's face, and he just gives a little smile. And then you can tell they're both kind of, even John Candy's even Del, as outgoing and as friendly as he is slightly uncomfortable with the idea of sharing this bed.
Yeah.
And then they're both like, oh, you don't see cabs like that every day. I love how Del's is he goes over so do you want to take a shower? Yeah. He's Martin's delivery is great. It's like, no. Del's no, not together.
Yeah, not together.
I mean, do you want to go first? So he takes his first, and he's in the shower, and then you see Del. He's drinking some beer and has a cigarette, and it's got one of those old. It's a vibrating.
Yeah, bed. Yeah. It's got the magic fingers. It's a magic fingers bed.
He also takes out a picture of his wife.
Yes,
that he puts on the bedside
picture of his
table.
wife that he puts on the little end table there.
She looks a lot older than he does, by the way.
Yeah.
I never get this. The one part of the movie I don't get. She looks 70.
His wife, Marie, Susan Isaacs. But yeah, she looks a lot older than him.
I mean, I grant they make John Candy look a little bit older in this movie than he actually is. Like, if you look at him in this compared to like The Great Outdoors or other like Armed and Dangerous, other movies around the same time.
Yeah.
But so
it's the mustache.
He's there. Yes, it is. There's a lot of great video to making in this movie, and especially with John Candy and his different outfits, and so yeah, he's in the bed and he's already got his like PJs on, and Neil's in the shower, and again, it's a cheap motel. Like the water pressure kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Right. He's washing his face, right? He's got soap all over there. He's got the soap over his eyes, and right. And then the water cuts out, right? So now he's just got soap in his eyes. He gets back in, and then now all of a sudden it goes to the super hot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it's supposed to be super cold. I don't know. It's one of the two extremes. And so he finally finishes it. And this is another scene that doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's okay, because I get it's just supposed to be like these, kind of vignettes, as I was saying. It's like the entire bathroom is now a mess.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't like that. Like you get the impression like this is
all the towels are soaking wet on the floor. There's just a little tiny washcloth that is dry.
Like how did all this happen?
Yeah. I mean, it's implied that Dell took his shower first, so maybe he did. It just didn't show him taking the shower.
Right, but then
that he used all the towels.
Didn't see that?
Yeah. How come Neil didn't see it when he got in there?
Anyway,
but
small quibble. Yeah. It's funny.
So Neil is forced to try to dry himself with a washcloth.
So,
which I've had to do before, and it's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever done the wash. I've done like a hand towel. Anyway. So yeah, so now they go back into the bed, and they're trying to sleep, and you can tell Neil's kind of turning her over and around, and we find out that the beer cans exploded.
Yes, because he turned on the magic fingers, and the bed started vibrating, and it caused the beer cans to get shaken up. And what happens when you shake up a beer can? They exploded all over Neil's side of the bed. Dell's side is nice and dry, but Neil's side has a big old puddle of beer in it.
But he just wants to get to sleep. He's going to find whatever way he can to get to sleep. And I don't blame him. It's been a long day. It's late, and they got to try to get up. They can't sleep in, right? Because they're trying to get home. And the more time, the longer you sleep in, the less time you have to try to do any of that to get. And to that point, then it's now Dell just starts making these noises to try to clear his sinuses.
Yeah.
So he won't snore all night.
And we also find out that Dell always brings his own pillow with him.
Yes.
Because he's allergic to sponge.
Yeah. I don't blame him there. Yeah. Whatever. Your own pillow's its own thing. And
he tells Neil, I'd trade pillows with you, but I'm allergic to sponge, so I always bring my own.
So, yeah. Anyway. So he just starts making all the noises. And this is after he lights a match. Not a match. He just gets out his little pocket lighter to read a book in bed.
Yeah.
And then he starts making the noises, and that's finally like the last straw for Neil. Is like, he jumps out of bed.
And he just starts going off on Dell.
He just starts going off, right? And Dell's like,
just releasing all of his frustration.
He just and then he gets mean.
Yeah.
It's like your stories need to have a point. You have to be discriminatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you notice at some point on the flight I started reading the vomit bag? Which, it's funny. Today, you just get out your phone and just scroll through your phone. Back then, no. You had to read what was in the pocket in front of you on the plane.
He got through the entire Sky Mall catalog.
That's right.
And started reading the vomit bag.
I could sit through any insurance seminar. How could you take it? Because I've been with Del Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know what you mean. The shower curtain guy. It's like, oh, wife, here's Del. I'll be glad to meet him, but here's a gun to blow your brains out, right? And then Del's like, you know what? I hope you go, sleep in the lobby. I hope you wake up so Steffi can't even move, right?
You may I get it. You don't like me. You don't like how much I talk. You don't. But you know what? I like me. My wife likes
My
me.
customers like.
My customers like me.
Because I'm the real big deal. What you see is what you get. It's like I could be cynic and cold hearted like you, but I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Boom. And Neil's like, oh no, what did I do? It's the first breaking of his facade.
Yep. Start seeing the cracks form.
So Dell goes back to bed. He gets in. He's putting the. I love this. He's
and meanwhile,
putting the blanket over him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Neil is putting his clothes back on. Right. He's getting his jacket on, getting his hat, and then after Dell went back to bed, pulled the blanket up on him.
I love how he looks back at him. It's like a reproachful wife.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah.
So he gets back in the bed. They get back in the bed together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now they have fallen asleep, but then we get this scene of it's his hand, as this
On the doorknob,
pocket knife that comes out and then picking the lock, right? Because again, we said that it goes both ways.
Yeah.
To the outside and the inside. Someone's on the outside getting in, right? And he sees he's taking money out of their wallets.
It's this kid
And
played
it's
by
the point-
Gary Riley.
It's a part where like Steve Martin kind of turns over, right? So the guy has he freezes a bit, and then right, he puts it back in, he leaves the room, right? And now they wake up in the morning, and it's the outside. You see the interstate, and they're in there, and the music's playing, and they both moved around during the night, right?
Yeah,
Dell
is like
all the way over,
spooning with Neil.
and then he gives him a little nudge with his nose.
Yeah, then kisses him on the ear.
Hands.
Yeah, they're holding hands, and then Dell's other hand is nowhere to be seen, and Dell just leans in and just kisses Neil on the ear, and that wakes Neil up.
And he was like, he was like,
"Why did you just kiss me?" And then
what? And then Dell's like, "Why are you holding my hand?"
Yeah. And then Neil's like, "Where's your other hand?" And Dell's like, "It's between two pillows." And then Neil gets this realization look on his face. He's like, "Those aren't pillows." And they both jump out of bed.
They're like, they're both stretching. They're like, they're shaking the bodies. And then they try to play it off as quickly as possible. It's like, did you see that Bears game last week? They have a hell of a team this year. They're going to go all the way.
Yep. No, my hand was not just in your butt crack.
It's played so well, though, right? It's just played out of the realization. It's not like played in like a homophobic type of way, right? No, it's just played like two strangers in a situation and it ended up being super uncomfortable, right? It's like, so, love how then, we get Neil going into the bathroom. Right, to wash up his face.
Yep. Wash his face.
He puts it up in his face, and it's this dirty water, and it's like the dirty socks.
Yeah, socks in there. And
when he puts it on his face, and he kind of smells it. So it's like,
well, before he does that though, because he looks down and sees the sink, it's just filled with water, and the socks are in there, and then you hear Dell yell to him, like, "Hey, don't forget, could you take my socks out of the sink before you turn on the water?" And then he picks up what looks like a towel, and he's wiping his face and kind of smells it for a second. No. It's not a towel. It's Dell's tidy whities.
Again, he's not a small dude.
That he just rubbed on his face.
Hey, at least it was the exterior.
True. But at the same time, I wouldn't put it past Dell to flip it inside out when it gets dirty. Get twice the mileage out of it.
That's right. So it cuts to them. They're in a little like diner and they're trying to figure out how they get to Chicago because they couldn't get any flights. They call around, try to get a flight again. No flights. Right. And then Dell gets the idea like, oh, Bert Damon from the railroad. He owes me a favor. I sold him all the
shower curtain rings.
And it's like, yeah, no, we just take the railroad. And it's like, okay. It's like, and it's like, all right. And then so like they're gonna pay, and Dell's like, it's like, can't I like, like, split this with you? It's like, Neil's like, I've already paid for everything. It's not
I've already paid
impressive.
for everything. What? I'll just
Besides,
pay for
if you get me on that train, we'll be even.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he just wants to get home.
Yeah. So he pulls out his wallet. He opens it up. It's empty. There's no cash
There's
in it.
no cash.
The cards are still there, but there's no cash.
And he starts, and then he like starts to blame Dell, and Dell's versus
starts yelling at Dell, telling Dell that he stole his money.
Neil's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, you're a thief. It's like, I don't care for that accusation. It's like, there was over $700 in here. And it's like,
and Dell's like, here, look at my wallet. There was $243 in there. If there's a penny more,
if
there's $1 more, then you can call me a thief. But he opens up Dell's wallet. There's nothing in there. So basically, that motel thief got away with a good chunk of cash for one motel room.
Yeah.
Got out with almost $1,000 from 2 wallets.
He had some happy holidays as well. Yeah,
and this was 80s money.
And so he's like, "Oh yeah, we're robbed." And so like they're stuck there, and now they're outside the Braidwood Inn again, and Dell's in this parka, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love this shot. It's like one of the other iconic shots, and then just kind of sitting on Dell's case, right?
Yeah, this is the shot that the end of Deadpool and Wolverine was referencing.
Yes,
with Deadpool and Wolverine sitting outside the shawarma place.
I looked this up. So this scene, this motel, it's no longer called the Braidwood Inn. It's now called the Sun Motel, but it is in Braidwood, Illinois. It is south of Chicago. It is off of I-55.
So it's not in Wichita.
No. It's actually not far from Chicago. It says 45 miles southwest of Chicago.
Those lying bastards.
I drove by this in the middle of the night and had no idea.
Really?
Yes. So, but yeah, it's become a popular spot though for people to like take pictures.
Oh, of course.
outside of, right? Of
course. It's an iconic shot in an iconic movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So they talk, and then like it's like, well, he's a small time thief, right? Because he left the plastic. Yep. So we can charge our way home.
Yep.
It's like, what do you have? It's like, I have a gasoline card, a Visa, and a Neiman Marcus card in case you want to buy a gift for somebody. I was like, all I have is Chalmers Big and Tall Man Shop, 7-outlet chain in the Pacific Northwest. Fantastic stuff, but it does no good for us here.
Yeah.
So they keep talking. It's like, well, Gus's son, Owen, he's going to pick us up and take us to the train station.
Yep.
Right. As they're saying that, this old kind of really beat up pickup truck pulls up.
And now comes Owen, played by Dylan Baker.
He looks like a really rough redneck.
Yep.
Yeah, he spits. Right, and he's kind of leering at them. And it's like, "Are you the shower curtain ring guy?" like, yeah. Wait, I had no idea that was Dylan Baker.
Yeah, Dylan Baker.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's Dylan Baker. You might recognize from playing Dr. Kirk Connors in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's crazy that it's Dylan Baker.
It is. It's Dylan Baker.
Like, I've known a lot of the different people in this movie that, their other roles. But yeah, I had no idea that was Dylan Baker until today.
Yep. But yeah, he's got a mullet and everything.
He's got big wad of chewing tobacco in there, right? I was like, it's like, I was told I was supposed to take you to the, Wichita to get a train.
And his wife's with him also.
Yes. And their baby.
Yes,
he's like,
and their baby.
People train don't run out of Wichita. People train run out of Stubbville. Like, no, that's fine. Just we just want to get to the train. Mm-hmm. We don't care where you take us to. And so they start picking up the trunk, and Owen's like, "Get your lazy behind out here." And the wife gets out. I love it. They got the gun rack back in the pickup truck, right? It's like, oh no, she doesn't have to do that. We got this. It's like, no, she looks scrawny, but she's strong and tough. First baby, it came out sideways. She didn't scream or nothing. Steve Martin just like, wow. He just looks at it. And then Dell's like, "You're a real trooper." You're a real trooper. They're like, no, we got it. It's fine. They get in the back. So now they're sitting there and like they're not going the interstate. They're going back roads again.
Because they got to see the scenery.
And he's like, and then Dell's just like, Stubbville's a little bit further than Wichita. It's like 30, maybe 45 miles. Meanwhile, it's the end of November. It's the Midwest. At the time of year, it can get very cold.
Yes. Yes, it can.
And it's very cold. And they're sitting in the back.
Neil doesn't have his gloves.
Again, remember, we said this is a pickup truck. And this is the 1980s when most pickup trucks really only sat 2 or 3 people.
Yeah. So they're on the bed of the truck. Neil doesn't have his gloves, so his hands are freezing. Dell has his mittens.
Yep. But then they see that there's some like work gloves that are like near them. And so, Neil goes to try to pick up the glove, right? And his dog just comes out like, there's hay. There's hay in it, right? And it just pops up like a whack-a-mole. And just starts barking at them. And they're like, give him the damn glove. Right? And he tries to get it again. And it's just barking and yapping. And it's like, oh, I just grazed it. Right? And he can't do it. Right? And then, so finally, like, Neil's like, what do you think the temperature is? And then Dell's like 2. So they get there, and the 3 of them are frozen solid, basically, right? Dell, Neil, and the dog. Yeah. Right. They get doing Stubbville, and they get they get on the train, and before they get on the train, Neil's like, yeah, no, they didn't have two seats together. So like Dell's like, oh well, maybe we'll meet in the diner car. We can have like a drink or something to eat. And Neil's like, no, I think I'm gonna sleep, But so Dell's like, well, how give me your address? Like I need to pay you back, right? And again, he's being generous. Yeah. He's thinking about this. Like he really does want to pay him back.
Yeah.
Right?
But Neil's like, no, I told you, get me the train, we call it even.
He's like, okay, just consider it a gift. He's like, all right, well, thank you, right? And so they get on the train, and we don't see Dell on the train. We only see Neil on the train.
Yeah.
Dell we don't see on the train, but Neil, he's sitting next to, like a teenage, girl, right? And it's like she's reading some magazine, and he's like, like, are you going home for the holidays? Like, yeah. He's like, yeah, me too. I'm just gonna make it, right? And then, it shows the train going through the country, and then all of a sudden, you start hearing some mechanical noises.
Yeah, noises that aren't good to hear on a train.
No.
And the train
The DeLorean stopped in front of the tracks.
Yes. And then an old man and a teenager held up the conductor and made him detach the passenger cars.
Yes. No, sorry. So then,
listen to our Back to the Future 2 episode. Or Back to the Future 3 episode.
Back to the Future Part 3 episode. Yes. Back to the Future Part 2 you can also listen to. But specifically Back to the Future Part 3. Anyway.
And while you're at it, listen to the first Back to the Future also.
Yeah. Listen to the entire trilogy. So we actually see like the conductor and engineer, they get off, and there's just a bunch of just smoke pouring out. That's more than what should be for a train.
Yeah.
So,
and it's not a steam engine.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the 1980s, not the 1880s.
Yeah. So everybody's getting off the train and walking through the field next to the train, next to the tracks.
Yep. I love it's like, you had there's a guy there, he's like, yeah, you got to walk about a mile up to the road. There'll be buses to take you to the next station, depot, right? To take everyone kind of the direction they need to go. And so, Neil starts walking, and he looks up, and he sees Dell
dragging his trunk.
And
he's having trouble with it because he's trying to walk through the grass with it. So there's,
and it's
uneven ground,
it's a field.
Yeah,
right. There's ruts and all roots and all these other things it's not flat ground.
Yeah. So he sees that Dell's struggling with the trunk, and So he decides he's going to help him. So he goes over and he picks up the other end of the trunk.
He's kind of reluctant about it, but he does it. He realizes that he should do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
he goes, picks up the other end of the trunk, and they carry it together.
Yep. So then we get to see them. They're in some little bus depot, and
they're carrying the trunk
bed.
upside down too.
Yeah. Sitting under the bench in the depot, and there's another old guy that's sitting next to them sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't factor in the movie at all.
There are a lot of old people sleeping in this movie.
Interesting. So, and Dell's just like, hey, have you ever traveled by bus before? Neil's like, no. It's like, mood's not going to improve then. So then they, cut to the bus, and there's this kid with it helmet on, and
he's running up and down.
He's just running up and down.
And then the people sitting across the aisle from Neil, from Neil and Dell, these two young kids are making out. What's funny is they're credited as bus lover and bus loverette.
So I love it because he's starting to neck her, right?
Yeah, and then he looks up and sees Neil staring, and he's like, "Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer."
And I'm like, you got busted.
And Dell starts laughing at Neil. You're busted.
So it keeps going now. Because he's basically Tim Robinson. Listen to our Point Break episode where Tim Robinson.
Yes, where he was our guest.
he the two of them would be perfectly people that would get an entire bus to start singing songs together.
Yes. So it's Neil's turn to sing, to start a song. So he
Three
starts
coins
singing,
in a fountain.
Yes, he starts singing 3 coins in a fountain. And everybody's just looking at him like he's crazy.
It's like, don't you know this song? And then Dell has to pick it up. It's like, Flintstones.
Starts singing the Flintstones theme, and everybody's singing along.
Which is funny. I was thinking about this. So this, the late 80s, probably most people would know the Flintstones.
Oh, yeah.
How many people under the age of 30 today would you think would know the Flintstones?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. But yeah, I mean, when we were growing up, we grew up on Flintstones and Jetsons and all those shows from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I mean, even 20 years ago, it wasn't that hard to find some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder how easy it is now. I mean, I know I've watched it with my kids on streaming services, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, we grew up with Flintstones and Jetsons and all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons and Wacky Races and
yes,
the original Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, no, the good Scooby-Doo. I had to set the kids straight the other day. They were trying to watch the non-good Scooby-Doos, the original Scooby-Doos. I'm like, no, not in this house.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, so they finally get to St. Louis. So, right? So they get, they made progression. They got them Wichita, which is halfway through Kansas.
Yep.
So they got to the other side of Kansas, and they got all the way across Missouri.
Yeah. They get to St. Louis.
So they get to St. Louis. So they've made, that's a long day to get from Wichita to St. Louis.
It is.
So,
Especially when you're having so many problems like they had. Your train breaks down, then you got to walk to a bus.
And Grant, it took a train for part of it. The train can make some decent time, but then they had to walk to get to the bus.
But we don't know how far the train got before it broke down.
No, we don't. Yeah, no, we just know they got it in Stubbville.
Mm-hmm.
It might have broken down in Kansas. It might have broken down in Missouri. My guess is probably broke down in Missouri.
Yeah,
probably. But they're picking up the bus in St. Louis.
Probably.
They broke down in Kansas. They're probably picking it up in Kansas City.
Yeah. Probably.
So I guess we can determine the state. So
yeah,
there we go. I love so now they're there at the bus depot, and I love how the phone bank, right? It's kind of disgusting looking, like the bank of cell phone, not cell phones, the bank of payphones. It's like, do payphones here? Anyway, it's Wednesday, right? It's the day before Thanksgiving at this point, and he's just trying to call home, but he gets no answer, and he realizes that they're at the Thanksgiving pageant.
Yeah,
where his daughter Marty Page, thankful that her dad will be home for Thanksgiving.
Yep, but it keeps on looking like maybe he's not going to be home for Thanksgiving.
Nope. So while he's on the phone, Dell is working he's using his sales prowess, right? And selling shower curtain rings as earrings.
Yes, to a bunch of girls. Because they need cash. They're out of cash. So he gets this idea, shower curtain rings resemble hoop earrings. So it's filled with helium, so it's very light.
This is your Diane Sawyer moon ring.
But he ends up making $100.
Yeah,
from selling a bunch of shower curtain rings to a bunch of girls.
He's like, last few ones, like, you could pass for 18.
Yeah. You could pass for 17, 18.
I've always wondered, like, what happens when any of those people realize that
they're wearing shower curtain rings on their ears. What happens when they go into the shower and realize that the things they have on their ears look exactly like the things that are holding up the shower curtain?
Anyway, so they're eating lunch again. And I always think this part's interesting. And again, it's Neil being slightly cold-hearted. So, I think we're holding each other up, or I'm holding you up, is the way he's trying to put it.
He's trying to sound... He's trying to sound a lot nicer than he's being.
Separate ways, we would get further. Right? And so, but even before they talk about that, like, he was talking about how, like, he missed it, the pageant. He's like, I've been spending too much time away from home. And Dell's like, I haven't been home in years.
Mm-hmm.
And Dell's like, what do you mean? Wait, what? You serious? Like, no. It's like, just a figure of speech. I'm on the road
all the time. It feels like I haven't been home.
I'm never at home. Yeah. So, just kind of talking, and that's when it just kind of comes up. Is like, I think holding each other up. He tries to break it gently. He does a bad job of it.
Yeah. And so
he's a marketer. He's not a salesman.
Yes. So Dell is like, oh, by the way, I made $100 selling the rings. Here's your cut.
Yeah.
So you'll need this for the road. So take it. And Neil's like, no, I don't want it.
Because basically what he says, like, I'll cover the bill for lunch here, and then here's your cut, the rest of your cut for. It's like I don't want it. Like, I'm not going to take it. And Dell's just like, well, then I'll leave it, and like the waitress will, just have a nice tip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of leave. Dell's disgruntled about it, and. So the next thing he cuts to is, it's Neil coming off a bus in a rental car lot at the airport.
Yeah, rental car lot at the airport, and he's got his little rental papers and everything with him, and he's looking for the
it
parking
tells him what
spot.
space that his car's in.
He's got the key in his hand, he's got the paper in the other, and he's looking, and he gets to his parking spot, and there's nothing in the spot.
Nothing's there. Meanwhile, the bus started to pull away.
Yes, the bus is on the other side of the parking lot by this time.
And he starts running like he did to run to after the cab in New York.
Yeah, so he's running, trying to get the attention of the bus driver, to no avail. And so the bus leaves the parking lot, and he is forced to walk all the way back to the airport, walk a mile back to the airport, to the rental car agency.
Again, like it's like a lot of airports, like the rental car lots, they're near the airport, but it's not like they're right next to it.
Yeah.
Some are, but a lot of them aren't.
Yeah,
right?
so he's walking through the snow. He's got to walk down a hill. He ends up slipping and falling down, almost getting hit by a bus. Almost getting run over by the bus, but the bus ends up running over his briefcase.
Yeah.
And so he makes it back to the rental car place at the airport and walks up to the counter. And behind the counter, the rental car agent is Edie McClurg,
and she's on the phone.
So you may recognize Edie McClurg. She was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She was Principal Rooney's secretary. And she's also done a lot of voice work. She's been in a lot of Disney stuff.
Okay.
And Pixar stuff. She was in Wreck-It Ralph and Cars 2. She's done a lot. Wreck-It Ralph. She was... who was she in Wreck-It Ralph? Yeah, well. Wreck-It Ralph, she was Mary.
I'm trying to picture who Mary was in that.
Yeah, so she was Mary in Wreck-It Ralph. She was Minnie in Cars 2. She's done a lot of voice work for Disney stuff. She was in Little Mermaid. She was Obsessia in The Emperor's New School, the TV show spin-off of The Emperor's New Groove.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, there's a lot. She even played Edie McClurg in an episode of Family Guy.
Yep.
Looking at this. Well, after a lot of Family Guy that, I watch now, but there's Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah. First two. Curious George. Higglytown Heroes.
Yeah. Before this movie, she was, in a lot of like TV show episodes and stuff like that. But after this movie, she did a lot of voice work.
It's mostly voice work. Yeah,
a lot of voice work throughout the 90s and 2000s.
Interesting. Okay, so she's getting off the phone. She's talking with her sister about who's doing what for Thanksgiving. Very kind of classic conversation. And Steve Martin, he's like a mess now. He's like, he's trying to get her attention. She just gives a nice, polite, kind of like 1 second kind of gesture, right? And then she hangs up and she does a little gobble like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And obviously, Steve Martin's not having any of this.
No.
Because granted, the car wasn't there.
Yeah.
He missed the bus and he has to walk a mile.
He's been having a terrible couple of days.
So I don't blame him for not being in a lighthearted mood.
Yeah.
And she looks at him and she's like, oh, wow, this guy looks like shit.
Yeah.
But she keeps smiling on her face. She's like,
yep.
Welcome to Marathon. How can I help you? And it just comes. It's the after this scene of Sid. It's probably the most famous scene in this movie.
This is the scene we mentioned earlier.
And if you've seen it, you know it. It's when all the fucks come.
Yep. Every other word.
Start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. And now her face gets different.
Yes.
Right? She's like, what's going on here? Then you can give me a fucking automobile. A fucking Datsun. I love that's a Datsun, by
Yes.
the way. This definitely puts it in the 80s.
Yes.
A fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang. He just doesn't say Ford. He specifically says a Mustang.
Yes.
A fucking Buick. 4 fucking wheels and a seat. I love how she's like, sir, I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
She's still trying to be polite.
And I love how, like, if you notice too, like, the agent that was on like her right and Steve Martin's left, it's behind, her right, behind the counter. Like, all of a sudden, like, she starts recognizing that all these bombs are being dropped. And like the actress who does this is actually a really good job. The extra, like all of a sudden it's like she just catches when like something crazy's happening here, and she's got to keep it together.
Her
herself
facial expressions are priceless.
Take care of the person that she's taking care of.
Yeah,
right. And it's like, I'm glad I don't have that guy.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just going on and on.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway across a fucking runway to be back here and have you smile in my fucking face. I love how he insults himself.
Yeah.
At the end, I want a fucking car right fucking now. I love how he slows down for the last part, right?
And then I love her response because she's like, "Do you have your rental agreement?"
I see your rental agreement.
Yes. It's like,
very politely,
like, I threw it away.
Exactly. That's the proper thing. Yeah. That's the thing that could help him. She's like, oh boy, what?
You're fucked.
We don't see what happens after that. He obviously doesn't get the car because he's walking out of the terminal. And now he's like, I gotta get a cab. So he goes to the cab stand. And he's still angry. And he goes to the guy's like, it's like, where are you going? Chicago. The guy's like, Chicago? Why don't you try the airlines? It's cheaper and you get a meal.
Yeah, it's cheaper and you get a free meal.
I love how it's the 80s. You would get a meal from St. Louis to Chicago.
Yeah, like a 45-minute flight.
You don't get a meal going from New York to Los Angeles today.
No. The 80s were a different time. Flying in the 80s was great.
Like it's a 45-minute flight. Like you get up there and they give you a meal and then you land. Yeah. Right? How awesome would that be? He brings up a brilliant point.
Yes. Yes.
And then all he does is he insults him. It's like he's like, if I was joking, I'd walk into the John and watch you take a leak. And then the guy's face changes. Like, now, you gonna help me, or you gonna stand there like a slab of meat with mittens? And this guy is a little bit different.
Yes. Yes, he takes it personally.
And punches him.
Yes, he
which granted, I don't blame him.
Knocks him off his feet into the road where there's a car coming and stops right before it crushes his head.
And then all he hears next, like he's still kind of like waking up because like he got punched hard in the face, right? So he's a little out of it, a little dizzy.
And he wakes up and who's looking at him?
He's still
Adele Griffith.
He's like, what are you doing? I almost crushed your head like a melon. And then the other guy is still angry. Like the captain's like, get your car out of here. And Adele handles this nicely,
yes,
I think.
He does.
He's like, what's your problem? You insensitive asshole.
Yeah, you insensitive asshole.
We have an injured man here in the street.
So tell you what, I'll move my car if you help get him out of the road.
He was like, no. The guy's like, my pleasure. And then I love how we get the crotch point.
Yeah. So you get the crotch point of view.
There's a crotch cam.
There's a crotch cam in this movie. There is a crotch cam in this movie.
And all we see is a hand.
A hand reaches down, grabs him by the junk. And then it cuts to inside the car. And Dell is like, wow, I've never seen somebody get picked up by their balls before.
It's like, but I'm really glad I didn't hit you. Neil's like, do you have any idea how glad I would be if you did?
No. Neil's like, do you have any idea how glad I'd be if you did?
Yeah, this is right. He just for like the next 10 minutes, he just talks in a high-pitched voice. Because, he got picked up by the testicles.
Yeah.
And but then Dell's just like, no, like it's fortune brought us back together again.
Here's something they never actually explain in the movie, but I think it would be very fitting if Dell's got a rental car.
Yes.
And Neil's rental car was not in its parking spot. What if Dell has Neil's car?
That's the way I've kind of interpreted it.
It's never mentioned.
It's never mentioned.
But it would be fitting.
But you got to remember, so we'll get to that in a minute. The thing to remember here is think about what plastic each one of them carries.
Yes.
We'll get back to it soon.
Yes.
So, and we get to another point where now Neil is driving and Dell is in the seat and he's trying to get the seat just right. He's just trying to tell him to stop it. You're gonna break it. It's like no, I need to get comfortable. And I mean I get it. Like it's not your car, and you're going on. You're driving. It's usually about a 4 or 5 hour drive between St. Louis and Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours. Yeah, 3-4 hours.
Depending on traffic, right? Grant, it's the night before Thanksgiving, and it might actually be a little bit less by that point where they're driving.
Yep.
So I mean, this actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like it seems like the trip from St. Louis to Chicago takes longer than it should, even before a certain incident happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, because Dell's driving first, obviously, and now Neil's driving.
Yeah.
And then,
Dell's adjusting the seat
Dell's
way too much. Neil keeps on telling him, stop doing that. You're going to break it. He's like, do you have a lower back issue? I do. I need to get this seat comfortable.
I was like, and Dell's like, it must be nice to be you and be so perfect and not have any, flaws. It's like, and Neil's like, what flaws do I have that you can name? And Dell's just like, you fidget with your nuts a lot.
He's like, you play with your nuts a lot.
Your balls a lot. He says your balls.
You play with your balls a lot. Yeah.
So he's like,
what are you talking about? It's like,
my balls.
You're always like scratching them and adjusting them. And
it's like Larry Bird doesn't do as much ball handling as you do in an hour.
Here's something. So he brings this up in the car, but never once do we ever see Neil with his hand anywhere near his balls.
No, the only person we see with his hand near his balls is
the cab driver. Yeah. But yeah, so it would be more believable, for Dell to be saying this if we had seen a couple instances throughout where Neil just reached down, adjusts himself, or scratches his balls real quick, or something.
No, but then we cut back, and now Dell's driving again. Neil's having problems with the
seat.
With the seat.
And
at one point, it brings him all the way forward and smashes his face against the windshield.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's like, see, you broke it.
It's like, I'm not going to be held liable for faulty engineering. So then Neil finally gets to the spot where leans back further enough because he wants to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like he's tired.
So he
wants to
falls
recline in
asleep.
the bed.
He falls
He's like,
asleep.
I'm putting my wallet in the glove box. Like,
Yeah, don't let me forget it.
Don't let you forget it. So now Dell, he has his parka on.
Mm-hmm.
He's smoking while he's driving, right?
He's smoking.
He's listening to Ray Charles.
Yes.
The
mess around.
Everybody do that.
He's getting into it. Like he's like dancing with it, grooving.
And then
he goes to throw a cigarette butt out the window. And
by the way,
what?
He throws out the window, right? But then because it's just a small crack, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he misses the crack and hits the windshield and goes in the backseat.
Yeah, he goes in just
now
lit cigarette.
The mess around is a bit of a foreshadow for this, right?
Yes.
So the opening line for the mess around is, "Oh, you could talk about the pit barbecue."
Yep. Yep. So he's, still driving, and he decides it's getting a little hot in here.
Which he's thinking, it's because I have my parka on.
Yeah. So he goes to take off his parka, and he, starts pulling his sleeve out, but he gets it caught on part of the seat on the little
the little adjusters
on the seat, and so he can't get his arm out, so his arm is stuck down there. So he tries the other one to,
and then he gets that one stuck.
That went stuck on the on the lever to adjust the back of the seat.
Yeah.
And so he's got no hands on the wheel. He can't get his arms up.
He's got to drive with his thighs.
Yeah, so he's driving with his thighs. Driving down the highway.
He's on the interstate. He's probably going 70 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to keep it straight, and and he finally, he's able, he pulls himself kind of violently, right?
Yeah.
To get out of it.
Because he's about to wreck.
Obviously, it steers the car in the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I guess for them, in some respects, he's able to steer them straight into an exit on an off ramp. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Not necessarily the exit they were going for.
So they're spinning down the exit.
Yeah.
And he just stomps on the brake. Right?
They come to a stop.
And he's saying, "Ah!" And then,
and Neil wakes up.
Wakes up Neil, and he's like, "Oh." He's like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "Oh, we almost hit a deer.
Yeah,
that's all."
We almost hit a deer.
And he tells him, like, it's getting hot in here. You should probably take off your parka.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that. And so the thing is, like, the car is spinning all the way down there, and then, it started facing the exit they just kind of came up. And not, the exit they want to go down to get back the direction they want to go.
So they're driving.
They start driving, and they drive right by the giant "Do Not Enter" sign.
Yeah, they drive right by the "Do Not Enter" sign, and then there's this car across the median, on the other side of the median, who starts honking at him. And it's this guy and his wife.
He's like, "Holy shit, that guy's going to kill somebody."
Because he notices that.
Like, they're supposed to be actually, this guy wants to race.
Yeah. Because they're honking at him. And Dell's like, this guy wants to race. All right, so he gives him a couple of beeps on the horn. He's like, come on.
And then, Neil rolls down the window. Somehow, he can hear him screaming at him from across the highway going 70, 75 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And all there's like, you're going to kill somebody.
So the
guy's going the wrong direction.
No, the guy's like, you're going the wrong way. And Neil's like, he says he's going the wrong way. And Dell's like, how would they know where we're going? It's like, good point.
Like, he must be drunk. It's like he's like, thank you, thanks a lot.
And he like makes the motion for drinking.
He gives a little friendly honk, right? You know.
And then that's
And
when
then
they're
they
like,
keep,
no, you're going to kill somebody. You're going
they
the
keep
wrong
honking.
direction.
And then
And there's
finally,
two
Neil
semi
looks
trucks
down.
coming the other
Oh yeah,
direction.
that's right. They cut to that.
Yeah.
And then Neil then looks down and sees the median between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wait, we're on the different side of the road.
We're going the wrong way on the road. And as he looks up, like, he sees the headlights. Yep.
Right? And then all of a sudden, Neil looks up. It's like, and he sees the headlights.
Of the two semis coming at him.
And thankfully,
there's
I guess
just
he's in the
enough
middle
room.
of the road.
Yeah. He's in the middle of the road.
Just enough room,
yeah, why is he driving
no.
on the line, like on the dotted line? In the middle of the road instead of in one of the lanes. But yeah, there's just enough room between the two semis that
it goes in. You
they
see
fit
the mirror,
right in there.
The side mirrors,
yeah,
get busted
scraping
off,
the sides of the car along the semis.
You know, the sparks flying, and Neil looks over, and Dell's now dressed as the devil.
Yes, he's laughing at him.
And then you get a brief glimpse of they're both skeletons.
Yep, they're both skeletons.
It's like they're fried, right? And they finally get through, and they hit on the brakes again, and Neil throws his hands into the dash, right? The trunk goes flipping over.
Yeah, because the trunk was too big to fit in the trunk of the car. So the trunk of the car was sitting, it was open, and when he slammed on the brakes, it sent his trunk flying, so it broke the cover to the trunk of the car off.
You gotta love inertia.
While Dell's trunk went flying into the middle of the road, and they pulled over the shoulder.
And then they go. They're trying to collect the stuff. The interstate.
First Neil has to pry his fingers out of the dash.
That's right. Yeah, they're stuck in there.
Like there's indents in there from his fingers.
The top part of the steering wheel has been bent over, right? Like, Dell was holding on
so tight,
and so like from 10 to 2, it gets bent over, right?
So they get out.
They clear off the debris off the railroad, right? Like, I love how there's people honking at them.
There's people honking at them. Almost hit the trunk, and then almost hit them. They're honking at them, so they walk over, get the trunk out, and move it over the shoulder where the car is. And they sit down on the trunk, and then
all of a sudden you start seeing this glow against the back of them. All of a sudden you start hearing this crackling. And then they both look behind them.
They see the car is on fire. And then they both just start laughing.
Because Dell's at first kind of confused about why Neil's cracking up. He's never seen him laugh this entire movie.
He's laughing like hysterically. And then he's like, it finally happened to you.
Good luck returning that. And also he's like, how do you even rent that without a credit card? Remember, Dell has a discount credit card and a credit card to
a big and tall
clothing outlet
in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's how we call a major credit card.
Yeah. So then this is when Dell reveals that somehow Neil's Diners Club ended up in Dell's wallet. And so he used that to get the rental car.
It's like,
he's like, oh, it's okay. I was going to pay you back.
Like, how did he get it? It's like, I was going to pay you back, but you wouldn't give me your address. It's like, but you stole it. It's like, no, like, I thought you put it there. Like, why would I put it there? Kindness.
Kindness. Yeah. He's like, well, give it back. I can't give it back. Why not? Because while you were sleeping in the car, I put it back in your wallet. And then they realized the wallet is in the glove compartment in the burning car.
It's like, are you mad? And
then they both start laughing.
Yeah. And then he punches him in the balls.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, right. I love how he's like, and you see them like arriving at this like motel. He's like, you could have killed me and punched me in the gut like that. That's how Houdini died.
That's how Houdini died. Punched me in the gut when I wasn't ready. So Houdini died, But yeah, the car is all burned out. It's a miracle it still runs.
It's still smoking.
It's still smoking,
but
yeah.
They get out of it.
They get out. They're stuck to the seats.
It's a convertible now.
Yeah, it is.
And they get out and tells like, maybe we should get separate rooms. He goes like, you get your own room.
Yeah, you get your own room. So they go in.
They get in there, and then Gennaro from Jurassic Park.
Yes, Gennaro, yes. Yes, Martin Ferrero. Gennaro, the lawyer from Jurassic Park, the blood-sucking lawyer. He's the clerk at this motel. And so they...
I was going to say, that's going to be $42.50.
$42.50. And Neil pulls out his wallet.
It's like, I got a gasoline card, a Visa.
But they're all burnt up, melted, charred cards.
Yeah. It's like, I can't take that. That's not a credit card.
Do you have cash?
It was like, well, you before that. It's like, have mercy. Yeah. I've been wearing the same underwear since Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's not my motel. I work here. Right? Like I can't bend that rule. And it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, well, what about cash? It's like, okay, oh yeah, cash.
I have
right?
He pulls out what cash he has. He's like, I have $17.
And that's when he says like, oh well, no, I can't do that. Right? Like I can't just say $7. I can't drop the price.
Yeah,
that's what he was saying. Like, I can't do
okay,
that,
well,
right?
how about $17 and a nice watch? And he pulls his real nice watch off and puts it on top of the $17.
And he accepts it.
Mm-hmm.
So
he gives him his room key.
And then Dell comes up and he's like, so here's the problem. I don't exactly have the $42.50.
Yeah, he's like, I don't exactly have $42.50.
I don't have any credit cards. Like, it's like, what do you have?
Do you have $17 and a nice watch?
And a nice watch?
He's like,
no. I have
$2 and a Casio. I love it. He takes the Casio up and he like drapes it over his arm. He's all, like, showing it off. He's like, and a Casio.
You can Casio wouldn't even cover that today.
No.
It's like, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to say good night.
So
Del he ends up sitting in.
Yeah, he goes into the car.
Again, it's open.
The newly formed convertible.
Thankfully, he has a parka.
Yes, and thankfully, the car's still warm.
And he's talking to his wife, and he's like, "Well, I did it again, Marie. I finally found someone's company I truly enjoy, and I push them away."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, but I guess you can't be here right now either.
Yeah.
And now, Neil, he's in this t-shirt. This is
Neil's in his room, his nice warm motel room. Like, and there's two beds in this motel room.
There's two beds in this motel. He's like, what did I do to end up with this guy? But then he has a movement of heart.
Mm-hmm.
Heart. And then he's like, you're going to freeze to death out there.
Yeah, so he calls out to Del. He's like, you're going to freeze to death out there. Get in here. You're going to stay with me tonight.
And I guess this motel has like a mini bar.
Yeah.
Because they have a bunch of mini bottles of booze.
Yeah, so they raid the mini bar. They're chatting. They're talking, getting to know each other better. And, this is like the first genuine moment that they have together.
Yes, absolutely.
In the whole movie. Like, they're enjoying each other's company. And, they're talking like old friends.
Yes. And you have, Neil's asking, like, oh, do you think this is a good combination together? And Dell's like, no, I don't think that's a good one. Right. They finally start talking. It's like, well, I think, they get to the point. It's like, well, at the very least, you have a woman that you love to go home to.
Yeah.
And like, you love her, don't you? Because they never really, they seem to kind of talk about family and each other, but like
talked about them a whole lot. They've both mentioned their wives and all this. So at least we both have.
Dell's like, love's not as strong enough word for how I feel about my wife.
Yeah.
Right. And so then Neil, does Dell's sitting in one of the, there's it's 2 beds, and there's like a circular table that you see a lot of, typical kind of a motel room. And finally, and Neil's like, to the wives, right? And so they cheers. They finish off their bottles and like, okay, well, it's time to go to bed. And, and Neil finally is like, at some point, like, we'll look back at this and we're going to laugh. I was like, you sure about that? It's like, you know what? I already am. I was like, was that car hot or what? I'm afraid to look at my ass. There's going to be griddle marks in my ass.
Griddle marks on my ass. So then it cuts the next morning, Thanksgiving morning.
Yep.
And they're getting out of the car, and it's stuck in the snow.
They're trying to get out. It's like, because it's been snowing overnight, and so it's still stuck. And
so
trying to get
Del is in the driver's seat, and Neil is trying to push it, but it's not budging. So Del gets the idea, well, what if we rock it? Yeah, maybe we'll get it out if we rock it. So he hits it in reverse and hits the gas and ends up backing up in through the window of the motel room they were just in. It just buzzed through the wall, Kool-Aid Man style.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You will put that room back together.
And so
my mom's not gonna like this.
So as soon as that happens, Neil hops in the car and like, go, go, go. So they just drive off.
And you see them, they drive off and they do another turn. And the hotel just throws out his arm like he's riding a bike.
I mean, the blinkers don't work in the car.
Yes.
So,
I mean,
he's got to use hand signals.
Advances just a little bit of time, and now they're fully on the interstate.
They got to get out of there because
the cars all flapping together.
There's no record that they stayed in that room because he paid with $17 on a watch. So there's no paper trail.
The clerk doesn't give a shit. Like, I got a nice watch out of this. I don't care. I'll go work somewhere else. This is my night job. So, they're on the interstate, and people are just staring at them now as they're driving by, and they're singing. They're happy, right? They got their winter clothes on because now the car is not as hot.
Yeah,
it's just a convertible, and the cold air,
and they get pulled over.
They drive by a speed trap.
Yep.
Michael McKean
comes by and pulls them over.
It's like, do you have an idea how fast you were going? It's like, well, I was just talking to my friend about that. You see, our speedometer melted. We don't have any degree of accuracy to say how fast we were going. He's like 78. It's like, It's like, well, you would know better than we would, officer. He's like, what happened to your car? Ooh. He's like, well, we had a little fire last night, but we got it just in time.
He's like, do you think it's safe to be driving this car?
Like, yes, I do, officer. He's like, but you have no working gauges. You have no mirrors. So no, officer's like, but the radio works.
The radio works perfectly.
Clear as a bell.
Clear as a bell.
And because Michael McKean can just play things so straight. It's like,
yep.
I can't, you guys, continue in this car. It's not safe for the road. And he's like, it's going to be impounded until it's been deemed safe for highway travel. Like, it's not going to be.
That's not going to happen.
And then I love how Steve Martin's just like, wait, what? And I was like, it's like, oh, but officer, like, he needs to get home for his turkey dinner.
He's getting home for his turkey dinner with his family.
I broke the law. I accept that. I'm not going to argue with one iota.
But at least allow my friend to get home.
But he doesn't. So, and then
he impounds the car.
No waiting. I guess whatever the nearest town is from. I'm guessing that Michael McKean seemed like he was probably a nice enough cop.
Yeah.
To actually, because hey, Dell was very friendly with him.
Yes.
He didn't argue with him.
No. He accepted all responsibility for driving illegally.
And so, you see Steve Martin, you see Neil waiting, and then Dell comes up in a truck, a dairy truck.
He's like, good news. I got us a ride all the way to Chicago.
He's like, well, as long as the heater's working in the cab.
He's like, that's
that's the problem.
That's the problem. He doesn't like anybody riding the cab with him.
So they gotta sit back in the back of a refrigerated truck with the cheese, other dairy products. And I don't get it. Like, this should not take that long to get from wherever they are, Chicago, but it does. Whatever, I don't care. They're not even taking the highway; they're taking back country roads again.
Yeah, because they need to see the scenery from the back of a refrigerated semi truck.
Well, he's got to deliver the cheese to the proper stores.
Yes, he does. I guess
on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so finally we get back to Chicago. We see them approaching Chicago. You see the Chicago skyline. See the Sears Tower, right? John Hancock building.
Mm-hmm. It's still the Sears Tower. I don't care how many people try to call it the Willis Tower. It is now.
What you're talking about, Willis?
Always be the Sears Tower.
And so now we get them again, and now they're on a platform for the L, and they're saying their goodbyes, and see Martin, Neil like thanks Dell. It's like, thank you got me home a little late, but I'm also wiser. And so, and then Dell's like, thank you, like, say hello to the wife and kids, and Dell, Neil's like, oh yeah, and say hello to Marie. I feel like I know her.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like
Dell
I know her.
just kind of he smiles and nods his head, and he seems like he enjoyed Neil's company, and he's sad that this journey's kind of come to an end, right? And so, and then now we get the next train. It's been a while since we had a train, right?
Yep.
We got another train. We got a subway train, and now Neil's looking back at it. He's laughing. He's thinking about the first motel room.
Well,
and
it's
the car being
It's
on
not really
fire.
a subway.
Yeah,
it's a metro rail.
Yeah, that's why it's L. It's elevated.
Yeah.
It's a mass transit train.
Yeah.
Right. So
he's sitting there.
All of a sudden, he starts thinking about the funny moments, but he starts thinking about these things that Dell said.
Yeah, that Dell said, like,
my wife likes me, and then he starts thinking back.
I haven't been home in
years. And it rings in his mind, and so.
And I love this. I love this scene. I love this part where he's on the train, because you see the realization, in his face.
Yeah.
He's sitting there. You see all these flashes of, the funny times they had. Then, I haven't been home in years. My wife likes me. And then you just see Neil's face just when he realizes what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so, he gets off the train.
Yep. You see him come back to the same station, and he kind of walks into the little the depot there, and he sees Dell just kind of sitting on the bench. It's like, what are you doing, Dell? And he's like, why aren't you home? And he's like, I don't have a home. Marie's been dead for 8 years. Right. And like, I'll be honest, this last time, first time I watched it, like I cried a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big
played perfectly. And
like in this movie, that's comedy, where all these funny antics are happening the whole time. You have this serious moment,
but you don't think about them
Yeah.
because it's so much funny. There's so many funny things happening around them.
Yeah. And then you have this just deep, serious moment between the two of them.
And, like Neil, like his head like lowers and he's kind of crushed and he realizes how mean he's been to him at points. But then he gets, he looks up and he kind of smiles. Mm-hmm. And then the music swells.
Yeah. And then he's like, "You're coming with me. You're coming home with me."
I love there's a perfect aspect of this scene. So we've seen them sit together on the trunk. Whenever we've seen them carry it, they're walking in front of each other. But now, as walking down the street,
they're side by side.
Towards Neil's house, they're side by side.
Yep.
They're equal, right?
Yeah. Now, Neil's house, is this the same house as in Home Alone?
I wonder. This house is nice.
It looks very similar to the Home Alone house. It is a very nice, very big house. I mean, Neil's got to be making bank to afford this house.
Yeah, no, he's in marketing and he's probably part of a very, very good firm.
Yeah.
The music explains, that's who sings it. Paul Young is who sings Every Time You Go Away. Right. Yeah. But he gets into the house, and he rings the doorbell. Yeah. Right. And
that's what
his daughter.
I never really understood. He rings the doorbell.
Does he want it to be a surprise? I don't know.
To his own house.
Everyone's downstairs. His parents are downstairs. His wife's parents are downstairs. All the kids, right? And they're excited to see him. And then, upstairs is his wife. And Neil's home, right?
And she's carrying the baby.
Yep. And Dell is a little, he likes the whole moment. And, he's kind of touched by it. And he's happy that he can get to see him home. And even before he goes in, he's like,
so Neil's...
I'll probably just going to stop in. I'll say hi and I'll leave. And Neil's like, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're staying for dinner.
Right. And then they see So
he's introducing Dell to his parents and his in-laws.
Yeah. And then his wife comes down the steps and then he sees her and they kind of lock their eyes. And Neil's like, the first thing, it's funny, the first thing Neil even says there is honey, I'd like you to meet a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Right. They don't even hug each other first. Right.
No. I'd like you to meet a friend of mine.
Right. Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think it's really important to show that. Introduce each other. They say hi. Right. And that's when they hug. Mm-hmm. And then it's when the music swells even higher. Paul Young's voice just gets higher. Mm-hmm. Right. And it cuts back to Dell, and he's looking at, and he kind of smiles, and as John Hughes likes to do in his movies, in the freeze frame.
Yep, freeze frame. Freeze frame on John Candy. And then the credits roll, and then after the credits, there's a post-credits scene.
Yes,
it's a brief post-credits scene back in the New York office.
When it's still looking at those,
he's still looking at them,
and he hasn't left the office.
He's got a plate with a turkey leg. He's holding on to a turkey leg, and he's looking at these pictures, trying to figure out which ones he wants to use.
Did his wife bring him the turkey leg? Did his secretary bring him the turkey leg? This is pre-DoorDash.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there was a delay. It's New York City. Maybe there wasn't a courier service with his thing that was able to pick it up and bring him the turkey leg. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's really trying to figure out what the right ad is for his cosmetic company.
Yes. Well, and really, either one of them would work just fine.
Yes. But yeah, it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's such a classic. I love it.
I do too. It's one of those movies that it's totally fitting to watch every Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm almost surprised no one does a Christmas Story type marathon with it, where they just play it all Thanksgiving long, or all the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You just play it on loop.
Yeah, they should start doing that. TBS should start doing that, like they do with Christmas Story.
Yes,
just 24 hours of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But yeah, that's the movie. Great movie. Referenced fairly heavily in the last movie that we did, Deadpool and Wolverine.
It was. But it's appropriate. John Candy is Canadian.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is Canadian.
Yeah.
It's kind of an unusual duo, John Candy and Steve Martin. Ad executive and shower curtain ring guy.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine, Yep. So, interesting enough because, anyway, yeah. I wrote down another connection. I can't remember what it was. I didn't write enough about it. Anyhow, I'll watch it again. I would remember it. That's not important. I love the movie. So,
yep.
That's all I have to say there.
Great movie. And like you said, the music's great in it too. Very 80s.
It's very 80s.
But yeah. So, anything else that you want to say about it?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. We are Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. And we are also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out our reviews on various movies, some we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do, then check out our Letterboxd. It is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, C-I-N-E Adventure. And you can send us an email and let us know what you think of the podcast. Let us know what you think of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Is it your favorite Thanksgiving movie? Is there another movie that you think is better for the holiday? Let us know. It's Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure at gmail.com. And once again, the and is spelled out. A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like it is in the name of the podcast. But yeah, send us an email. Let us know what you think. We want to know what kind of movies you want us to talk about. We want to do what is pleasing to your ears.
That's right.
We want to talk about things that you want us to talk about, and we want to get you involved. And so if you enjoy the podcast, if you like what you're hearing, then go to our social media, give us a like and a follow, go to your favorite podcast app, give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and the recommendations in the search. And that way we can reach more ears. And if you really want to be involved in the podcast, we've determined that, it would be very nice if, we could add a theme song to this podcast. So if you are musically talented and you want to show off your musical talents, then if you feel so inclined, then if you want to put together a theme song for Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure and just send it to us, we'll listen to it. And if we like it, then it might become the new theme song for the show. And then you will be forever immortalized on the airwaves. So yeah, just email it to us or in some other way, get us the file and we will listen to it. We'll listen. If we like it, it may just become the new theme song.
You might want to consider some type of crossover of Limp Bizkit and Creed.
Yes.
That might help you.
It might.
Maybe it won't. I don't know.
It might. The nookie took me higher. Something like that. But
alrighty then. So what's up next? I'm actually excited about what we're doing. I'm actually excited what we're doing next.
So we've decided that we've done, so far, all the movies that we've done have been movies that we've thoroughly enjoyed, and this is a podcast that's not just about, the movies that we love, but also, some movies that might not be quite as lovable or quite as loved by the majority of people. And so we decided we're going to go with a movie that we didn't care that much for when we first saw it. And so we figured we'd watch it again and see if our opinions have changed on it. And it's fitting because
Neil Page gave Dell a second chance.
Yes. So we figured we would give this movie a second chance. And it's fitting because we just finished up with the Deadpool trilogy, with the good version of Deadpool. So we're going to do a movie with the bad version of Deadpool.
Or is it a bad version?
Or is it a bad version of Deadpool? You'll have to tune in next time to find out. But we are going to be doing, and it also features Wolverine. So we're doing X-Men Origins Wolverine next. Like I said, a movie that neither Tony nor I really cared for. We were both actually rather disappointed with it when it first came out. But we watched it again.
We're disappointed.
Yes, most people were disappointed with it. But we watched it again for the podcast, and you get to find out next time if our opinions have changed on it at all. So join us next time for X-Men Origins Wolverine.